everybody, welcome back to another edition of Inside the Zone with Mateo here on Tuesday, March 10th. And, it's time. It's time for another edition, the first really major edition of Inside the NFL for this this upcoming NFL season. For those who do not know, my name is Mateo. I'm your host. And this is a podcast I started over last summer, and it's been gradually growing over the last couple months. And I'm working my way into the ranks. If you want to call it like that, sure. I'm a long time away. Only at 128 subscribers or something like that. But I'm still trying. I'm still trying to get into this niche of sports journalism here as I'm still in high school. So if you guys would like to support me, if you like the content that you see, I provide insights and analysis for all Minnesota sports things related. And then like today, maybe things to do with the NFL, NHL, MLB, NBA, all stuff sports. You can probably find it here at some point in the week. Episodes come out Tuesday and Thursdays. But yeah, hit the like button, hit that subscribe button if you enjoy this content. But yeah, Inside the NFL is basically our NFL podcast within our whole podcast. Our whole podcast is Inside the Zone with Mateo. But then I break off into little podcasts when I talk about specific things. So we got like Inside the NFL for only NFL related episodes. But then that actually even goes even further to Inside the Vikings when we talk only about the Minnesota Vikings and stuff like that. This episode actually might end up on the Inside the Vikings as well. At some point, I might just put them all together. But it's also Inside the NFL has its own playlist. And for those who do not know, actually, we had a weekly NFL episode here on Inside the NFL every week. We did not miss a single week throughout the entire NFL season. You can go ahead and check those out. The earlier episodes, not so great. We're still figuring some things out. But I got a lot of positive reviews from the episodes that came out, probably like week 12 and on. So we started to get the hang of it. It'll come back this season. But this is the day where now we set everything up because the free agency window opens up tomorrow, March 11th. I'm recording this here on March 10th. I'm going to post it around March 10th. But March 11th, free agency, the new NFL season officially opens. We've had a bunch of moves, though, already, and we are going to break it down. So let's go to Mateo's show batting order. For those who do not know, it's basically just a show lineup that I use across the podcast. If you'd like to sponsor this, send me an email, send me a DM over on X, and we could get that figured out. But we got a couple things on the batting order today. And so the first thing is, who got signed, who got traded. We're going to break that all down. I'm going to give you my thoughts. If you follow me here on YouTube, you might have seen a short where I released kind of my biggest winner of day one of free agency. We'll talk more about that team coming up. Actually, the first thing we're going to talk about, we will talk about that team. But basically, we're going to kind of go through a rundown of all 32 NFL teams in general, some faster, rundown, some more slower and insightful breakdowns, but we're going to talk about all 32 NFL teams in today's episode. Who got signed, who got traded. Obviously things will not be processed until tomorrow, but contracts have been officially said, they're going to sign these contracts and stuff, but all of the things cannot go fully through until tomorrow when the new season actually starts. But there's been some moves also today, so we'll figure that out. We'll also figure out who's still out there for some teams because there's a couple big names, including Trey Hendrickson, Tyreek Hill, Kyler Murray, all still kind of available for any team to sign. And then I'll give you kind of my final thoughts as we wrap it up. And then I will, of course, give you kind of a preview what's coming up next on the channel here this week. So without further ado, nope, that's coming up. We don't have another slide. So let's just go straight over to who got signed and who got traded. So with that, we're going to go over to let me set this up a little bit more. We're kind of rumbling and jumbling. I'm trying to record this a little faster so that we can get it out because I am recording it a little later in the day, but hopefully you'll enjoy this. But first, you got to figure out, so if you saw my short, yesterday I posted that, my biggest winner of day one. You probably saw it, but if you didn't, I'm going to tell you who my biggest winner of day one is. And I can't believe, as I said in the short, I can't believe these two words, the words winners and this team's name, I can't believe I'm putting them in the same sentence. But the Las Vegas Raiders are my biggest winner of day one of free agency. Because if you think about what they have been doing, sure, the week started off with them trading Max Crosby to the Baltimore Ravens, right? So people were like, okay, yeah, they're going full rebuild. But guess what? They are maybe going into the most perfect rebuild ever, which it might just be. Here's a hot take that I'm going to start the episode off with. It might result them making the playoffs. I know that's a hot take. That's an early hot take. Extremely hot. But when you take a look at what they've done, they bring in Jalen Naylor, former Viking. I know much about him. They bring in probably the best center in the game, Tyler Linderbaum. They bring in edge rusher, Kwity Paye, I believe is how you say it. They also bring in two decent linebackers, Nakobe Dean and Quay Walker. They also are able to get a trade done with the Bills. They get corner Taron Johnson in exchange for a 2026 7th and a 2026 6th rounder pick. So basically, practically nothing, especially because you have 2 first-round picks because of the Crosby trade. They also got Eric Stokes, who re-signed with them on a 3-year deal. And then recently this morning, I believe they got Matt Gay as a kicker, who's still a good kicker, and I like it. But you look at these moves. Matt Gay, I'm going to hide you, sorry, because the other guys are kind of more important. But it's still a good accusation. You get Jalen Naylor, Tyler Linderbaum, Kwity Paye, Nakobe Dean, Quay Walker, Taron Johnson, Eric Stokes. You get him back. On top of what you already have in Ashton Genty, Brock Bowers. And a defense that wasn't too bad. It was really your offense and Geno Smith, who we can talk about that in a second because he got traded today. You have the number 1 overall pick. You're going to select Fernando Mendoza unless you shock the world. I'm pretty sure the odds are like 98 to 2 right now that the Raiders pick Mendoza with the first overall pick. Yeah. But you bring in, all these guys. You have a decent, they have the number 1 overall pick for a reason. But if you get what I'm trying to say, they have a decent team to start this rebuilding. They get the new coach who just won a Super Bowl with Seattle. Clint Kubiak was the offensive coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks and led that offense to the Super Bowl, to winning the Super Bowl. So you get him as a coach. Obviously, he could be an Aaron Glenn type of, he could have an Aaron Glenn type of first-year coaching or maybe even a Ben Johnson. And I'm leaning toward more of a Ben Johnson first year of head coaching rather than Aaron Glenn because Aaron Glenn, also, he had the Jets. We're going to talk about the Jets in a little bit, but the Jets are an interesting situation. They did make some good moves. I will talk about that in a second. But Clint Kubiak with Fernando Mendoza, if he is not a bust, and I do not think he's going to be a bust. I think he's going to be an average to maybe above average quarterback in his first year. I think we have a lot of expectations for him, and I think he's going to live up to most of them. Obviously, there's going to be rookie mistakes that we are going to see, but he is also a rookie. Now, I'm not going to be foolish enough to say, the Raiders are going to be in contention for winning the Lombardi next year. No. But I'm just saying right now, I think they are a dark horse to make the playoffs this year. When you think about this AFC, the AFC sure has gotten better here in free agency. However, it's still not as deep, I think, than the NFC. I think the NFC, 3 of the 4 teams in the NFC West could make the playoffs next year. That being the Seahawks, the Rams, and the Niners, who we'll talk about the Niners moving a little bit, and the Rams, who got a lot of former Chiefs. Obviously, you got to keep the Seahawks in the contention. I think you got all 4 NFC North teams, depending on what our Vikings do with J.J. McCarthy. But you even saw they won 9 games with J.J. McCarthy, and it looks like they're going to get a new quarterback. So I'd say be aware. Vikings, I think, should probably be in the mix. But certainly the other 3 teams, Detroit, Green Bay, and Chicago. Out east, when Jaden Daniels comes back, and I'm expecting for the Commanders to make a deal, I think the Commanders, the Eagles, Giants with Harbaugh, Cowboys are kind of iffy. And then the Panthers have been making an insane amount of moves that I think, they won their division. Their division is obviously one of the weaker divisions, but they won their division with that team, and they just upgraded their team a lot. They have to be considered a contender or, a playoff contender. I'm not saying Super Bowl contender, playoff contender. The Buccaneers, sure, they got rid of, they lost Mike Evans, but I still think you got to keep them in conversation. I think they get Kenneth Gainwell and some other players. Re-sign Cade Otton. The Saints are, again, another dark horse. And then you kind of have, who's the other team in that division? The Falcons. I mean, who knows what Tua's going to do over there. And then over in the AFC, you had the normal teams and then maybe a couple dark horses. But I think, overall, when we're talking about this, the AFC is a little weaker than the NFC. So, in a way, if the Raiders were in the NFC, I don't think I would be as high as I am right now on them because they're in the AFC right now, if that makes sense. And let me know, guys, what you guys think in the comments. Do you think the Raiders have a legitimate shot at making the playoffs? Last year, I was super high on them. I had them making the playoffs last year. Obviously, we know how that turned out. But I could legitimately see the Las Vegas Raiders at least fighting for maybe a 6 or 7 spot in the AFC playoff picture this year because these additions are so good. On paper right now, when I'm thinking, obviously, they're going to have a pretty easy schedule as well. On paper, I think if Mendoza is not a bust, and a lot is going to be riding on Mendoza, kind of similar to, I don't know what I was saying, similar to J.J. McCarthy. If J.J. McCarthy would have had an average or above average performance, the Vikings probably would have made the playoffs. Now, I think Mendoza is going to be a better quarterback from what I've seen to J.J. McCarthy, but who knows what might happen. I think if Mendoza has an average season, maybe even a little bit above average, and the Raiders, I don't think they're done. When you're looking at their cap space, they still have $80 million in cap space right here on, if you want to see. I mean, and then I mentioned the Commanders still have some cap space. They have $75 million. Chargers still got a lot, which is actually surprising. It's also surprising that the Seahawks have $45 million, but again, JSN is eligible for a contract extension. So is Charbonnet and some of their other key pieces. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do. Cincinnati surprisingly has a lot of cap space there. The Jets, obviously. But the Raiders lead this by far with $80 million in cap space. So I still don't think they're done, even though they have spent the most amount of money this offseason so far. So with that all being said, with these moves, Naylor, Linderbaum, Pay, Dean, Walker, Johnson, Stokes, Gay, and then with the weapons they already have, Genty and Bowers, I just really like this free agency day one. Really, really like this first day of free agency for the Las Vegas Raiders. And that's why I have them my biggest winner of day one. Obviously, that could change. And eventually, once things die down, once all the top guys kind of get signed, we will do another episode power ranking the teams before the season based off of their free agency, where I think they're going to be. That's probably going to come sometime around July or August. But I just really like what the Raiders are doing. And by the way, we have seen teams, I'm going to talk about the Minnesota Vikings again. My Minnesota Vikings invested so much in a young quarterback. We've seen it happen with J.J. McCarthy, right? You invested so much that you're basically releasing half of your roster to clear up cap space because J.J. McCarthy didn't work out now. So now you're forced to release all these players. But last season, the Vikings spent almost as much money as everybody to build around J.J. McCarthy. So if Mendoza is a bust, which again, I don't think he's going to be, we all had question marks about J.J. McCarthy. But if Mendoza turns out to be, they're maybe even saying a generational talent, maybe the next Patrick Mahomes, right? They're comparing him to that, which is absolutely insane. But if he's going to be this, on paper, all these moves make so much sense, and it seems like everything should fit together. Obviously, it's the Raiders. Obviously, it's the NFL. So things can happen. Injuries can happen. But again, I still don't think the Raiders are done. And in that short yesterday, it was like a 2-minute short. And you see, I've talked so much more about it because there's so much more to talk. Like, this episode is going to be long. It's going to be long. We might even divide it up into 2 episodes. But the Raiders, I just love what they're doing. I just absolutely love what they're doing here. And I teased, again, in that short, I teased last night. If they get one more wide receiver, a true wide receiver one, because I don't think Jalen Nailor is a wide receiver one. But there is a guy, as I teased this, I didn't actually say it. I just put a picture of him in the short when I was talking about like if they get a wide receiver, right? There's a guy in free agency still sitting there, coming off an injury. Name is Tyreek Hill. There's also, if that doesn't work out, which I think it could, there's a guy like Christian Kirk, which you maybe don't want that. But then there's also a guy, Deebo Samuel. You continue to scroll down, Darnell Mooney. And you can continue to scroll down, and there's Tutu Atwell and other guys like that. But when I think about this, if you could get a Deebo Samuel or in my opinion, Tyreek Hill. If Tyreek Hill doesn't go back to Kansas City, because I think that's definitely an option, 32 years old, Tyreek Hill, with Mendoza, Bowers, Genty, Colton Miller on that offense. Then you also have Linderbaum. Then you also have Jalen Nailor. I'm just going to throw it out there. Let me know, who do you think's stopping that offense if Mendoza is going to be the key word here? It is going to be the key phrase. But if Mendoza can play, who would stop that offense? And obviously, we don't know where Tyreek's going to end up. I would love to see him in Raiders, and now I could praise the Raiders even more. And maybe I'm glazing them too much. But if they could get, I think, here's a bold prediction for y'all. Tyreek Hill or Trey Hendrickson, one of them, I think, is going to end up on the Raiders. And I could also see both of them ending up on the Raiders. Now, if both of them end up on the Raiders and Mendoza plays his heart out and is not a bust, then is maybe when we could start saying, okay, at the trade deadline, you have some additional first-round picks. Do you trade them and pull up one more trade? I'm just saying. I'm thinking, forward here. And I really like what the Raiders are doing. I really do. And, tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm overreacting. I want to know. But with the team that has $80 more million in cap space, that their average age is 26.5 years old, I feel like it's now or never. You got off that insane Crosby deal. I think Crosby just didn't want to play there anymore. I don't think, I wasn't a fan of Crosby. And I just think he fits the East Coast more than the West Coast. But now this opens up so much more money when you already had so much available for this offseason. It's just going to be really interesting to see what happens. So that's kind of my biggest winner. But now we will go through all the other teams and kind of give you my rundown on all the signings and trades that they have done. So let's go back over here, NFL.com. It's just kind of the one I'm going to use today. The ESPN has a bunch of other guys have some free agency trackers, but I just like this one. And we're going to start out east in the AFC East in the Buffalo Bills. So the Buffalo Bills, we had news a couple days ago. And again, I'm going to go probably pretty quickly through most of these teams. There are a couple teams I want to kind of talk about a little bit more. However, time doesn't necessarily allow us to do so. So we'll figure it out. Okay, so the Buffalo Bills signed Shane Bulich. A quarterback doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, okay? But kind of their highlighting, the highlighted moves so far, they re-signed their kicker, Tyler Bass. They re-signed their center, Connor McGrovern, and Dawson Knox, their tight end. But then their big move, their big new acquisition is going to be DJ Moore. He was acquired in a trade with the Chicago Bears in exchange for a second-round pick, which is that's kind of crazy that, the Bears just wanted to move on from him for a second-round pick, which, again, I kind of spoke a little bit about this trade a little while ago. Also, again, on a short. Basically, when news hits in any of the sports, the shorts feed is where to go. I will give you guys my quick reaction, my honest reaction and thoughts on whatever move just happened, most likely on my short feed, because obviously I can't just do a podcast every single day because I'm, still in school, but I will give you my honest takes in a short. So that's a perfect way to go, check in on what I'm saying if you're wanting more content, and appreciate if you guys would watch those and hit the like button on them as well, so we can get more views on that as well. But anyway, I talked to you a little about this. And I like it, sure, is DJ Moore going to be this permanent number one wide receiver for Josh Allen that he's been missing for a while? Arguably his whole career, I wouldn't say so. However, DJ Moore is still a good enough piece that I think it does make the Bills offense better. And it just gives Allen somebody to throw the ball to that he can have a little bit of confidence there. Sure, Moore has battled injuries, but I think I'd like it for the Bills, and the fact that the Bills were able to get rid of, the fact that the Bills were willing to trade a second-round pick for DJ Moore, that's got to tell you something, that they needed a wide receiver. The Bears get, I think, with Roma Dunze and Luther Burden, they didn't really need more. I think they're definitely going for the younger side of things on the offense with Caleb Williams, but, and then Cole Kmet and guys over there. Colston Loveland. So it's definitely a younger offense for the Bears, and DJ Moore just didn't kind of fit that. And I think a veteran in Moore fits the Bills a lot. And I thought I heard something that Joe Brady, who's now the new coach for the Bills, has some history with DJ Moore, so that could have definitely been a part of that. So bring in one of the guys Joe Brady wants. I think that's pretty cool. But other than this, it's been an underwhelming free agency for the Buffalo Bills. Overall, out of 10, I'd give you so far, I like the Moore deal, but it's not enough to raise it. You haven't really done anything. Your defense, by the way, got smoked in the playoffs. You need to do something. Maybe is that a Trey Hendrickson deal? Who knows? But for right now, it's like a 3 out of 10 free agency for the Buffalo Bills. Definitely not great whatsoever. But the Miami Dolphins are the next team. They're a very interesting team. They've only really made one major move. It's signing Malik Willis to a 3-year deal. It's really cheap too. $67.5 million over the next 3 years. We can figure that out mathematically. It's about $22.5 million per year, which is cheap for a quarterback. Malik Willis is finally going to get his chance to be a number one quarterback in the NFL. I love it for Malik Willis. I think he does deserve this. I'm going to be really interested to see what happens. But anyway, sorry, I got lost track. I'm going to be interested to see how Malik Willis does. He's going to be this number one starter that he's always been a backup to Jordan Love or Aaron Rodgers over there in Green Bay. But his time in Green Bay is now done. And yeah, he's going to get Achane. He's going to get Waddle. He's going to probably, I'm guessing they're going to probably try to fix up that offense a little bit for him. But I really like this. It's a cheap deal. And now you kind of can invest your money into other spots in the ball. And, you're still pretty confident, I think, in Malik Willis as a quarterback. Obviously he's not Patrick Mahomes, but arguably I'd say he's a maybe top 20 quarterback in the NFL when he's playing at his best. Obviously he's shown that he can turn the ball over, unfortunately, but I really like this. Getting rid of Tua Tagovailoa, I feel like it was just, it was needed. That time has come to an end. It didn't totally work out over there in Miami 4-2. And I'm going to, again, be interested to see what happens over there in Atlanta with Penix and Tua, two left-handed quarterbacks on that team. It's going to be really interesting to see how Tua adjusts now to life. He still stays on the East Coast and not too actually far. He just moves one state over to Georgia over in Atlanta from Miami. Other than that, they get Zane Gonzalez and Greg. They just re-signed their tight end there to a $3.25 million contract. But other than that, Miami, your offseason, again, it's a good, I like it. I'm going to give it a kind of 5 out of 10. You get rid of the Tua Tagovailoa contract. You replace him with a cheaper option, and I think more safer bet with Malik Willis. Obviously, I'm not going to be out there and say Malik Willis is going to lead them to their first playoff win in a couple years, but I do think they're going to put together a decent offense that's not going to be one of the worst offenses in the league. And I think now they can invest hopefully some money into a defensive side of the ball. And again, Trey Hendrickson is going to keep coming up, but I could see them trying to convince Trey Hendrickson to come over there, and maybe, just maybe, that helps their defense a lot. But it's going to be interesting. Very interesting to see what happens with the Dolphins. Again, 5 out of 10 for free agency for them. And now we go over to the Patriots, who have been having, today. They have made a couple moves, and I really, really like their moves that I've been seeing them, from them today mostly. They get Elijah Vera Tucker. I love this deal. You needed an offensive lineman help. You just need offensive line help in general after what happened in the Super Bowl. He's a very good, young, talented offensive lineman. I really like that. And then you get Romeo Doubs. So he's going to replace for now. Obviously, Tyreek Hill could be an option over here, or Deebo Samuel I could see going to the Patriots. But Stephon Diggs is not coming back to the Patriots. So Romeo Doubs, again, from Green Bay, is now not going to be back with Green Bay. I'm going to kind of miss hearing Romeo Doubs. I like Romeo Doubs. Romeo Doubs. I really like Romeo Doubs, not going to lie. And now I don't get to play him 2 times a year with being in that NFC North. But anyway, Romeo Doubs, 4-year, $70 million contract. He gets to play with Drake, May. Then they get Jones as well. Overall, for this offense, again, I'm going to kind of speed through a lot because we've got a lot of teams to talk about and not as much time. For the Patriots so far, give me a 7 out of 10. Definitely one of the better free agencies that we've seen so far. I love the Elijah Vera Tucker move. I like the Romeo Doubs move. And yeah, I'm going to be really interested to see, again, this phrase, I'm going to be really interested to see what happens. That is going to be basically my phrase for every team, because I am going to be very interested, very intrigued to see what happens. Obviously, this is just one part. Making the moves is one part. The other part is seeing how they play together as a team, seeing how many wins they can get. And that's my question for this next team, the New York Jets. I mean, they have done some good things. They have made some good moves. But I'm just so confused because they traded for Geno Smith. They were stupid enough to trade a 6th-round pick. A 6th-round pick for Geno Smith, who at the moment is going to be their number 1 quarterback unless they go with, somebody else. But golly, Geno Smith was the worst quarterback in the entire NFL. And of all teams, I think the only team stupid enough would be the Jets, and they get Geno Smith. They trade for Geno Smith. That's absolutely insane. It's just so, they re-signed Breece Hall, right? It's the franchise tag, right? For at least one season. And then they go out and improve this defense with guys like edge rusher Kingsley Engenbar. They get Joseph Osai, David Aintamata, Tavondre Sweat. They get Demario Davis. They get Mika Fitzpatrick in a trade with the Dolphins. They get Dane Belton. They're reshaping their whole defense for Aaron Glenn. And you're saying, okay, maybe they're cooking. Maybe they're going to land Kyler Murray. But no, they get Geno Smith. And it just is so ridiculous. It is so preposterous that the New York Jets, of all teams, it had to be the New York Jets to get Geno Smith. Like, it's almost laughable because it's so embarrassing. Now, Geno Smith could absolutely ball out with Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall. But the chances of that are, I think, lower than me getting 1,000 subscribers by the summer. Which, by the way, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you're enjoying this content. But I'm only at 130 some subscribers. I'm not going to get to 1,000 probably till at least the end of the year, maybe even a year from now. Or maybe never. But I'm saying the chances that Geno Smith balls out is less than that. And it's just, it's laughable. It's laughable that the Jets did it. You know, I was thinking before the Geno Smith news hit this morning, I was going to give the Jets a lot of praise for bringing in guys like Mika Fitzpatrick, Demario Davis, some veterans for their defense, and a lot of other good defenders. Then they are able to keep Breece Hall, and they have Garrett Wilson. Maybe they can try to get another wide receiver, maybe some offensive line help. But then they do this. And I was going to give them a 7 out of 10. But Geno Smith is going to drop their day 1, day 2, their couple days of free agency score from 7 out of 10. I'm going to 5 out of 10. We're going to actually drop it down another bit. 4.5 out of 10 for the New York Jets. It's still not terrible because you did bring a lot of good guys, but it drops a lot. Your score drops a lot because Geno Smith, I just don't think, should be playing in the NFL. I mean, I'm sorry. He should be a backup. He could be in the NFL because he made the NFL. We're going to put him some respect on Geno Smith's name. But my goodness, if you saw him play with Brock Bowers, sure it was the Raiders and they're not the Raiders had the number 1 overall pick for many reasons, but one main reason is that Geno Smith got benched. Why did Geno Smith get benched last season? Because he is awful, and the Jets are an awful franchise, and it's just of all teams, it always has to be the Jets. It always has to be the New York Jets. And so let's get out of the first division. We've only talked about one of the 8 divisions, guys. I gotta start talking a little bit more. The AFC North, though, we got so much to talk about. For the AFC North because, the Baltimore Ravens here, they bring in Max Crosby, but it's really the only move they make. In theory here, it's like, for me, I like it. You traded only 2 first-round picks. People were offering that. It's just, I think Max Crosby probably wanted to play there. It does make you better. It gives you finally an edge rusher. That was kind of the one spot on defense you were missing. You have Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. And I like this for the Ravens. For the Raiders, again, they get 2 first-round picks. It's just good assets. I could see them trading some of those assets away. And I'm not going to really talk much about the Ravens because, the Ravens haven't really done anything insane other than that, but I kind of already talked a little bit about that at the shorts, and I think I did an episode of some kind about the Max Crosby trade. It's just like, I don't love it. I have mixed feelings. That's the right word. Max Crosby is definitely going to bring the Ravens a lot of sacks and pressure. He's going to pressure the quarterback well. But again, Lamar Jackson is just really unlucky when it comes to playoffs. So it's like, unless Max Crosby's the reason this team finally, gets close to the Super Bowl, I'm going to say the Raiders win this trade. I just think the Raiders win this trade more than the Ravens do. Sorry, the Raiders just get 2 first-round picks, and it just fits their timeline better. I'm sorry, maybe I'm just stupid. But I like the trade better for the Raiders than the Ravens, okay? Just going to say that. Moving on. Free agency grade, I'll still give it a 6 out of 10. Cincinnati Bengals, man, they have had a really decent free agency. They re-signed Dalton Reisner, which is really good. And then they bring in Brian Cook, Jalen Davis and Boy Mafe. So a good edge rush there. They get another corner. They get safety. Again, they have money because they got rid of Trey Hendrickson. They got to fix this defense. It's their number one job. It's one of the worst defenses in the league, if not the worst defense in the league. You got to try to keep Joe Burrow around before he gets traded to my Minnesota Vikings. And Cincinnati Bengals overall, I'm going to give you a 6 out of 10 for a free agency grade. Again, now this next team, the Cleveland Browns. Besides Quincy Williams, I don't love it. They help their offensive line. But if you're telling me Shedeur Sanders is going to be throwing to Jerry Jeudy as his number one target yet again, you need a number one wide receiver. There's a couple guys out there that are maybe not necessarily a number one guy, but I think of Christian Kirk. I think of Deebo Samuel. Get one of those guys and we'll boost your rating a little bit. Their defense already was a really good defense with Myles Garrett and Carson, the rookie. I'm not going to try to pronounce his name because it's insane. I think he's German. But Quincy Williams does help that. Overall, I'm going to give you probably a 5 out of 10. Pretty chill, maybe 4 out of 10. But overall, nothing really exciting for the Cleveland Browns. But the Pittsburgh Steelers, they got some exciting things to talk about here. They re-signed Asante Samuel. They re-signed Cole Holcomb, which I think is insane and good. But then they get Jamal Dean, who I love. I love that for the Steelers. They get to sign Rico Dowell as their number one running back after, losing Gainwell. And did they lose their other running back too? I feel like they might have. But I love this. Rico Dowell, he was going to be always the running back to Chuba Hubbard over in Carolina. But now Rico gets his chance at the full RB1 spot with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then they get Michael Pittman, which I love. This is now Michael Pittman and DK Metcalf with whoever. I'm still thinking it's going to be Aaron Rodgers at the quarterback position, but who knows? I love it. The Steelers were definitely missing another target on offense. They get 2 in Dowell and Pittman. I love this. Free agency grade, giving it an 8 out of 10. For the Pittsburgh Steelers, by the way, they re-signed Cole Holcomb. They re-signed Asante Samuel. They get Jamal Dean as well. They're just making their defense even better. I love this defense. And yeah, I'm really high on the Steelers as well. Now the AFC South, besides the David Montgomery move here, I don't love, they're just kind of re-signing and, making their offense and defensive line better. They do get to sign Danielle Hunter to a 1-year deal. I forgot. They did get Reed Blankenship. The Eagles are losing a lot of players and aren't really doing anything. They get to sign Fairborn to a new kicker. He's the highest paid kicker in the NFL now. But overall, it's interesting. I think David Montgomery is definitely a better running back than Joe Mixon right now. He obviously got released. So Woody Marks and David Montgomery, I think I like this. I think David Montgomery is a really talented running back. That's also one of the best running back blocker, because they are definitely used to block. He's basically an additional offensive lineman combined with a running back. I love Montgomery. Dalton Schultz, they get to sign him to a 1-year extension. And overall, I guess it was a really really good move. I think it's so far really good. I'm going to give this like a 7 out of 10. And hold on, we got some breaking news here. The Browns are expected. We were just getting done talking about the Browns. Obviously, this has been out for a while now because obviously I'm just getting it now, but I'm posting this in a little bit later. Wow. Okay. The 2-time Pro Bowl center Jenkins, former Packer, is going to be signing with the Browns on a 2-year deal worth $24 million with $20 million guaranteed. I love it. I wanted the Vikings to low-key get Jenkins, but now that, I think I gave the Browns like a 4 rating. I'm going to boost that up to like a 5. That's a good center there. You're helping that offensive line. And I'm still, though, Browns, get a wide receiver, and your team is looking a lot much better. But yeah, the Texans, I guess they were kind of sneaky. They've made a lot of good moves. I like the Reed Blankenship move. So yeah, we're going to give you a 7, maybe. So let's go 7.5 out of 10. I like this a lot. I think once you figure out the CJ Stroud thing, it's definitely gonna end up better for you for sure here. But yeah, that's all I'm really going to say about the Texans. Don't have a strong opinion about the Texans. I do want to, you know, kind of go quicker again between here. The Colts didn't make too many moves. They were able to receive the transition tag for Daniel Jones, which means he would be with the Colts if he didn't get another offer. However, the Colts are now given the right to match any offer that is submitted by another team starting tomorrow. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. I still think Jones will probably still stay there. Alec Pierce did get re-signed. I think that's great. Obviously, with Michael Pittman Jr. getting traded, he's kind of now that number one wide receiver. And they did get Colby Woodson in that trade with Green Bay, which I think Green Bay definitely won that trade by getting Zaire Franklin, but that was just cleaning up some cap space. Overall, Colts will give you like a 6 out of 10. The Jaguars, man, have they been a little bit disappointing. I feel like they should have been doing what the Panthers have been doing, but the Panthers are definitely doing much better. The Jaguars really just re-sign everybody, don't sign anybody new. So I'm just going to give them a 5, kind of just right in the middle of everything like that. And then the Titans, again, they didn't really do much at all. They did get Mitch Trubisky as a back quarterback to Cam Ward. And again, I mean, nothing crazy. If you're a Titans fan, I'm sorry. I'm still waiting for a big move, and I'm not going to spend much time talking about you guys. I think overall, like a 3.5. Like, it's nothing exciting. It's just kind of the most Titan thing that you could do. So overall, I'm going to keep it there. And then we can finally move over to the final division in the AFC West. We got the Denver Broncos. They are able to re-sign J.K. Dobbins. They do also get Justin Stred. I don't know how to say his name. I'm sorry, but he re-signs on a 3-year deal. They are able to also re-sign a bunch of players. They don't sign anybody new, which again, Tyreek Hill, Deebo Samuel, another wide receiver for Bo Nix, I think is what you need. They have lost a couple players. They've released a couple players. So we'll see if they make some cap space for some of those wide receivers. But overall, again, kind of if you don't do anything, you're just kind of be sitting at a 5 out of 10. And then the Chiefs, they made a splash by signing Kenneth Walker. But again, they did lose a lot of their corners. They lost Trent McDuffie. They did get some picks out of that in that trade. Breaking news: Travis Kelce is coming back. But other than that, healthy or not, Patrick Mahomes returning eventually. This Chiefs team, sure they get Kenneth Walker, who's going to be important for them. Obviously, they're going to probably think about running the ball a bit more while Mahomes is gone. Don't know who that quarterback is going to be as well. Do they put in like who's available for quarterbacks other than like Kyler Murray? Because they're not going to do Kyler Murray. They need like somebody who can actually play quarterback, but like not take up too much salary. Like they're not going to bring Aaron Rodgers in. Like a Russell Wilson, I wouldn't be surprised if something kind of similar, like a Russell Wilson type of player, I guess, could be interesting for them. We'll see though what happens. You got rid of your defense in Trent McDuffie and then another corner, I forgot who, because the Rams got both of them. It was kind of crazy. But yeah, the Chiefs definitely are in a better spot than they were at the start of free agency by getting Kenneth Walker. But I feel like you lose Trent McDuffie to sign Kenneth Walker, and I don't fully know if that was worth it. But we'll see what happens for sure. Kenneth Walker is definitely a good free agent to sign, probably one of the better running backs, if not the best. I mean, he's the reigning Super Bowl MVP for heaven's sake, so got to put some respect on his name. I think like a 6 out of 10 is kind of fair for the Chiefs. Nothing crazy, but definitely notable moves there. And then finally, we got the Raiders and the Chargers. The Raiders, we've already talked a lot about. We kind of opened up the show on them. I am going to give them a 9 out of 10 so far. I'm okay, we'll go 8.5. We'll go 8.5 out of 10. This has been one heck of a free agency for the Raiders. And if everything ends up, working well, if they can maybe get a Tyreek Hill or a Trey Hendrickson, this team is, setting up for success if, the key word again, if Fernando Mendoza can play and just be average or maybe a little bit above average. I think this team has a legitimate shot at, making the playoffs for the AFC. It's just crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And then as finally, we can close this thing off here with the Chargers, who haven't done really anything. Again, I'm going to give them a 4 out of 10. Nothing absolutely crazy. But now we can go to the NFC. And for that, I am going to just kind of go quickly. I don't know if you necessarily like this breakdown. I guess I can, again, I'm going to try to go quick here. If it's not, you can skip to your favorite team. I'll try to put some timestamps out there as well for like each division, just so you guys can go to the team that you want to go to. However, the Cowboys, will start with them. Javonte Williams, they re-signs. George Pickens receives the franchise tag. They acquire Rashawn Gary with another trade with the Green Bay Packers. They get Jalen Thompson. They re-sign Brendan Aubrey. But overall, it's just nothing crazy again. They just kind of, their only move other than re-signing players or tagging players is Rashawn Gary. And Rashawn Gary, let's not act like he's some generational talent. He's just a edge rusher who is a veteran who can help this defense a little bit, with who did they trade for in the Parsons deal? They got Kenny Clark, so maybe some familiar faces to bring there. But overall, the Cowboys, this is going to be a pretty much 5.5 out of 10 for them. Not going to really talk much about that. I've been super high on the Giants, on the New York Giants, but they haven't really done anything, and I feel like they would have had money. Let's take a look here at their financials. The Giants, they have $17 million. You would think they would make a move, maybe a Trey Hendrickson to fit with John Harbaugh, but other than that, I think a lot of this hype from the Giants for me is coming from Jackson Dart. He's been awesome. He's going to now get to play with Malik Neighbors, Cam Skip-Cadabo when they come back from injury. That defense is low-key going to be nice with John Harbaugh being the head coach. And I just think it's going to be a really fun team to watch. But for this, again, 4.55 kind of rating out of 10 for the Giants. They haven't really done anything except re-sign their own players. They do get Tremaine Edmonds, which is cool. They get Isaiah Likely. So, I'll do a 5.5 out of 10 for the G-Men. It's free agency. But, the Eagles and the Commanders, I'm going to talk about them pretty much the same because they really re-sign their players. And then, if you're the Commanders, you re-sign players. And if you're the Eagles, you just give a contract extension. But other than that, you don't do anything else. And, it's been disappointing. I think they are definitely some of the biggest losers of free agency. Like, the Eagles are losing quite a bit of players for sure. Like, I'm actually going to pull that up. Like, I'm pulling up the wrong site now. I want the Philadelphia Eagles. I would like the Philadelphia Eagles because they have lost quite a bit of players. We haven't mentioned all the players that they have lost yet, but it's been insane. It's been insane. Relinquish. This is who we're looking for. Whenever it loads. I mean, they lose Jalen Phillips, Nakobe Dean, Reed Blankenship. They also lose Matt Pryor. Still, they need to re-sign here Dallas Goedert, Jahan Dotson, and all these other players. A.J. Dillon is a name. Marcus Epps. I mean, Sam Howell. Like, there's a lot of guys like they could re-sign. So it's going to be interesting to see if they re-sign them or they let them go to free agency. I think Dallas Goedert, they should try to re-sign. And then again, I think an A.J. Brown trade might still be in play. I just don't know who that right team is. But for those two teams, both kind of 4.5 out of 5. Like, really, I'm not excited for them. And I feel like when I was saying, there's supposed to be I think they're the best two teams in that division. And while the Giants and Cowboys are making moves, they're not really making any moves. And we saw what happened when Jaden Daniels got injured. The Commanders obviously don't have enough. Sure, re-signing Larry Tunsil is good, but like it was definitely unimpressive of what they've done so far, but we'll see what happens. But then we got the NFC North, my division, because I'm a Viking fan. I cover the Vikings. The Bears really didn't do much. They did get Garrett Bradbury. They did get Braxton Jones. So, of course, they're, trying to fix up that offensive line. They get some defenders. Kobe Bryant is definitely the biggest name they have signed. Overall for them, again, I think we might still see a Trey Hendrickson type of move for them. I'll give him a 6 out of 10. Not impressed though with the Bears whatsoever here. Not, Kobe Bryant, he's still a good, really strong, and talented superstar over there as a safety, but still, with that being your biggest move, I think you still have a couple pieces, but of course, we'll see what happens come draft time. They do have some good picks, so maybe they can trade those picks away as well. We'll see what happens. The Lions basically replaced David Montgomery with Isaiah Pacheco this morning, and then other than that, haven't done anything. Isaiah Pacheco is just, again, a replacement for golly, why am I stuttering so much? I don't know. But Isaiah Pacheco, replacement for David Montgomery, and other than that, they kind of helped get a more offensive lineman, but other than that, they have not done anything on the defensive side, which again, I don't think was their problem. I do think their offensive line was a big problem, but I think they still have a couple holes that they could fix, but we'll see what happens in the coming days. And then the Green Bay Packers getting Zaire Franklin, it hurts as a Viking fan because he's definitely a really talented linebacker, especially to stop the run. And then, for the Lions, I'll give them like a 6.5 out of 10. And for the Packers, Zaire Franklin's a really good acquisition. I'm going to give them also a 6.5 out of 10. And now I'm going to kind of rage on my Vikings yet again because Eric Wilson, Andrew DePaul are the only guys you re-sign. You do get James Pierre, who I really like that. Signing. Hold on. Jason Sanders is signing a deal with the Giants. That was just news from Adam Schefter. But you aren't doing anything. Come on, bro. Like, there's been rumors that we are going to be in the market for Kyler Murray. Will that happen? I don't know. Of course, I'll probably go live if that does happen. I would entertain if we can get him for fairly cheap. I love that. We just need a new quarterback, but we also have some other issues here, like Jordan Addison. Get him off my team. I don't want his legal troubles on my team anymore. I think there's definitely holes. We lose Jalen Naylor. We lose a bunch of players. We had to release a bunch of players. And I'm actually going to pull that up. I wanted to show you guys. Like, we released so many players. Notable players that we released. Hold up. These are not the wrong one. Sorry. Yeah. So I guess actually we didn't lose that many. We just released a bunch of players. But we're releasing a bunch of players. We're going to be open to trading some other players. It's just like Jonathan Grenard. Jonathan Allen's most likely going to be released and all that wonderful stuff. But yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see what happens with the Vikings. I don't know what we need, but if we do get Kyler Murray, I hope he's going to be better than JJ McCarthy. And he should. And I think there's a lot to be said for Kyler Murray, and I will take this time to, give you my honest take on Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray is going to be better than JJ McCarthy. Therefore, I think if we have anybody better than JJ McCarthy, whether it's Kirk Cousins, Joe Burrow, Kyler Murray, I don't care. I think we still probably can fight for a playoff spot with the roster we have. Just get JJ McCarthy off the starting role. I'm okay having him develop, but he cannot be the starter going into 2026 because if that's the case, cancel the season. Sure, maybe I'm being too hard on him, and he can turn into another generational talent. Tom Brady really likes him, but until he shows me that he can play without getting injured and without turning the ball over, I'm going to be down on him, and I just hate what I saw from him in his really rookie season, but in his second year of his NFL, his first year as a starter. And y'all know how I feel about my Vikings, so I'm not gonna talk much more about that. But come on, guys, I want some Vikings news. We've been absolutely quiet. Definitely another loser so far of the trade deadline. Overall, of the free agency market. Overall, I'm giving you guys a 3 out of 10 rating here in free agency. So we got 2 more divisions though, and now we can move on to the NFC South, which Tua Tagovailoa is going to be that new quarterback alongside Michael Penix. Kyle Pitts got the franchise tag. They got Nick Folk as their new kicker. They did get Jahan Dotson. Okay, I missed that one. I like that, though. I like that. So now Jahan Dotson, Drake London as your kind of 2 wide receivers, I guess. I kind of like that. And then Kyle Pitts And then you also get Bijan Robinson, who's obviously one of the better running backs in the league. So, and you also get Zacchaeus. Sorry, I don't know where I've been. How did I miss some of these? And then I think their defense wasn't too bad, and especially in one of the weaker divisions in football in the NFC South. I think this team could definitely compete as long as Tua doesn't throw too many interceptions. But yeah, for that, I'm going to give you all a 6.5. No, let's go a 7 out of 10 for the Atlanta Falcons free agency rating. But now, the Carolina Panthers. I just have to do this. Because sure, it's not the flashiest move. Sure, it's not, that many moves. However, the Panthers defense has been absolutely insane. It was great last season. It almost beat the Rams, who made the NFC Championship game. They bring in Jalen Phillips, Devin Lloyd, Isaiah Simmons, and Calvin Evans. Those two linebackers, Devin Lloyd, Isaiah Simmons, probably two of the best linebackers in the free agency class. They put him in their defense now. They also get edge rusher Jalen Phillips from the Philadelphia Eagles. And they still have cap room. Like they still have dang it. How much money do they still have? They still have $17 million in cap space. That could definitely get them one more wide receiver, because I do think that's what they're missing. I think Tet needs a number 2 guy. That could be a Christian Kirk. That could be also maybe a Deebo Samuel, because he's older now. But I gotta give the Panthers claps, because props to you guys. You bring in Devin Lloyd, Isaiah Simmons, Jalen Phillips. You make your defense so much better. And Panthers fans, you have something to be cheering about. I think your team definitely has a great chance. They won the worst division in football last season. Who says they can't do it again? I could even say we might finally have a winner in the NFC South over 500, guys. Come on. I really like this. Obviously, hopefully chemistry, works with all these guys. But this Panthers defense could be one of the best defenses in the league. With Derek Brown as well, that you have J.C. Horn and all those other guys. I really like the Panthers. They got to maybe fix up a couple spots on the offensive side. Sure, they lost Rico Dowell, but they still have Chuba Hubbard. I just really like the Panthers, and I got to give them an 8.2. An 8.2 out of 10 for their free agency. I really like it for the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers and the Raiders have definitely been the teams that have caught my eye and said, wow, have you made some good moves? But there's still some other teams here. And I mean, the New Orleans Saints have made some interesting moves. They get our punter, Ryan Wright, but then they also get Travis Etienne, who gets to play home now in his home state, I believe, of Louisiana. They also get Noah Fant. But what does this mean, Travis Etienne? What does it mean for Alvin Kamara? I think it most likely means they're going to trade Alvin Kamara, maybe for like a 4th-round pick, maybe. I wouldn't mind him over here in Minnesota. We do need another running back besides Jordan Mason after losing Aaron Jones. But we'll see. We'll see what happens with Alvin Kamara. But I think that's a story that we should definitely be tracking. And then we got Tampa Bay, who gets Alex Anzalone, Kenneth Gainwell, and then re-signs Cade Otton. That's a good offseason. Sure, that's a good day one of free agency. I still think there's going to be a couple other moves that they can make, smaller moves that they can make. I do want to note that they only have $2 million in cap space, but they also did lose Mike Evans, who we'll talk about in not too far long from now, because we're going to get to the final division finally in the NFL. But yeah, Kenneth Gainwell going to back up Bucky Irving. That's a great duo of running backs. Alexander Anzalone gets to help that defense, that linebacking core. And finally, the Vikings don't have to play him. Dude, he always played so well against the Vikings, though. I didn't want to play him twice. We had to play him. Think about this, guys. The Vikings have to play the Bears twice every season, the Packers twice every season, and the Lions every season twice. This might be one of the hardest. I mean, the NFC West is going to be very difficult this season. The AFC North is going to be very difficult. But the NFC North is a very difficult team, and now we don't have to play Alex Anzalone. That is something to mention for the Lions. They do lose him. He's one of their captains of their defense. but I think they'll be able to rebound, and that's okay. But I think Alex Anzalone definitely helps the Buccaneers. K. Dotton gets to be there again. But Baker Mayfield, yeah, you lose your number one target in Mike Evans. He's been a buck for life. But again, does this mean they can maybe go out and make a trade for another wide receiver, or do they just give the reins to Chris Godwin and Emeka Egbuka? Again, I wouldn't be surprised if that happens as well. But overall, I think if I would rate these four teams here, because I think the NFC South had some interesting moves. I'd say Panthers have to be 1, Falcons got to be 2, Saints got to be 3, and Bucks got to be 4, just because they do lose Mike Evans, which is a big loss for them. But they do get Kenneth Gainwell. They still get Alex Anzalone. They get to re-sign K. Dotton. So I think this, it makes up for it. But obviously, missing Mike Evans is going to be tough. And I think I got a comment on the short I made reacting to the Mike Evans trade. Was like, yeah, we're gonna miss you, Mike. Crying emoji, because yeah, they are going to miss him a lot. But finally, we get to go to our final division here, the NFC West. Starting off with the Cardinals, who are going to lose Kyler Murray. They're going to release him. But then they are able to sign Gardner Minshew. So their quarterback room is now Gardner Minshew and Jacoby Brissett. Brissett, I think it's Jacoby Brissett. Golly, I'm sorry. I respect you. I respect you. They get Kendrick Bourne to help their wide receiver group. They get some defensive linemen. They get a punter. They get to re-sign their kicker. But a lot of re-signings there. Kendrick Bourne sure is like a good wide receiver to play over there. But overall, I'm sorry, Cardinal fans. I'm sorry. You're going to get like a 4 out of 10 rating. It's nothing crazy. Maybe. I mean, I do think you have, you have $36 million in cap space, so you could still make a swing. But overall, and also in such a competitive division, I think this is an easy pick for them to finish 4th. Because in the other 3 teams, and we're going to start off with the Rams, they get Trent McDuffie, they get Jalen Watson, and then they get to re-sign Cameron Curl, who, that defense now is even better than it was. It was already one of the best defenses in the NFL last season. They also get to re-sign Tyler Higbee. But yeah, the main news for the Rams, Trent McDuffie, Jalen Watson, the 2 former top 2 corners on the Chiefs are now in the Rams system, making this defense. I think the corners were definitely the weakest spot on this Rams defense, and this Rams defense is definitely scary. It's going to be scary. It's up there with the Seattle defense. It's going to be up there with the Ravens defense is one of the best defenses in the league. So yeah, Trent McDuffie, I was still shocked when I heard that news. But again, as a reminder, the Kansas City Chiefs in return get a 2026 first round pick, a 2026 fifth round pick, and a 2026 sixth round pick, as well as a 2027 third rounder. And then McDuffie signed to a 4-year, $124 million extension with the Rams, and that is the largest contract for a corner. And then they also get a 3-year, $51 million deal. Jalen Watson, also former Chiefs corner. So again, when I was talking about the Chiefs a while ago, like losing their top 2 corners, that's definitely a big thing and big reason why I feel like they're still in kind of the same situation. Even though they get Kenneth Gainwell, they lose their top 2 corners, which corners I would say are more important than running backs. That's just my take. But other than that, the Rams definitely make their team much, much better. And then the San Francisco 49ers. I mean, finally getting Brock Purdy. They finally got Brock Purdy. I'm such a Brock Purdy fan. They get him a number 1 wide receiver in Mike Evans. I love this. A 3-year deal. Mike Evans, welcome to Santa Clara. And Brock Purdy finally has a number 1 wide receiver he can throw to. Now, think about this theoretical offense. As long as they can get Juwan Jennings to stay, Mike Evans, Juwan Jennings, George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, Brock Purdy, who is stopping that offense? I think maybe the Rams defense can. Maybe the Seattle Seahawks defense can. But other than those 2 teams in their division, I think the 49ers are going to be set up for success. And, they're going to get Warner and Bosa back. I think the 49ers are, in a really good spot right now. They have a really good start to the offseason, obviously, as well. Hopefully they can just get rid of that gas, what's going on over there, that energy station or whatever, that there's a bunch of rumors going around that's causing all the injuries. I think, as long as they don't get injured, the San Francisco 49ers team can definitely win at least 14 games like last season, maybe even close to 15 or maybe 16-1. Maybe that's a little too much of a stretch because you do have the Seahawks. You have to play the Seahawks twice. You have to play the Rams twice. But maybe 15-2, 14-3. Who knows what might happen? But I really like this move. The 49ers earned for me a 7.5 out of, no, let's go. 8 out of 10 free agency, day 1, day 2 kind of. They also get to sign Lowe to a 2-year deal for $12 million, I believe, and then a long snapper, and they get to re-sign their kicker as well. But finally, we get to end things up here. We end things off with the reigning Super Bowl champions. And again, appreciate everybody for tuning in. This has been a long episode. Hold on. Never mind. It's not a big trade. It's not. It's just the Saints signed another linebacker that's not really anything notable. But the Seattle Seahawks get to re-sign Joshua Jobe. They get to re-sign Rashid Shaheed. But then, I mean, they lose some players as well. And it's definitely been... It's going to be interesting to see how they rebound here because they have a lot of players up for negotiating, extensions. Jackson Smith-Njigba and company, right? They're going to... they lose Kobe Bryant, right? They lose Kenneth Walker, but they have to still, re-sign Tariq Woolen, Jake Bobo if they want to keep him around. But Charbonnet and Jackson Smith-Njigba. So they're all this money that they have because they have $45 million. A lot of that is going to go to contract extensions, so they can't really do much. Their hands are kind of tied to their back. But overall, I mean, they do lose Kobe Bryant. They lose Kenneth Walker. But for this offseason, I'm going to give them a 6 out of 10. Rashid Shaheed, they traded for him at the deadline. They get to re-sign him now. I think he's a really good asset. He's going to be a wide receiver 3 until Cooper Kupp leaves, which maybe could end up in the trade if they need to save some salary money. But Rashid Shaheed is also... Rashid Shaheed, not Raheed Shaheed. I don't know. Good for the punt return, kick return, led the league in kickoff or punt return touchdowns. Absolutely insane. And the Seahawks, though, they're losing some players as well. So I'll give them like a 7 out of 10. I'll bump it up to a 7 out of 10 rating. And that is going to conclude kind of my thoughts and analysis of most of all these signings through basically the first 2 days of free agency and all that stuff. Man, this has been a long episode. I'm sorry. I didn't know this was going to be that long, but there's a lot to talk about, which I love, but there's a lot to talk about, so definitely a longer episode for all of that. But now we do need to move on to the second thing on our batting order, and this is definitely going to be much quicker. It's going to be much, much quicker indeed. Oh, stop. Boop, boop. There we go. And the second thing is, who is still out there? So we're just going to do a quick rundown on who's still out there in free agency, just kind of going down through all these players that are still available, kind of the top names, just so you guys have an idea of who is still available right now. And obviously, Tyreek Hill, Trey Hendrickson, Tyler Decker, Juwan Taylor, Marshawn Lattimore, Travion Diggs, Christian Kirk, Deebo Samuel, Jenkins just got signed, so he's not actually available anymore. Jonah Williams, Joel Betonio, Wyatt Teller, Hassan Reddick, David Njoku, which is a big name because Cleveland, he's been there forever, but it looks like he's going to get signed to a new team. Aaron Rodgers is technically a free agent. I think he'll go back. If he goes back, he'll go back to the Steelers. Darnell Mooney, Joey Bosa, Jonnu Smith, Cam Robinson. I mean, a lot of names. Drake Greenlaw, Russell Wilson, Leonard Floyd, Bobby Bobby from the Giants. Their captain. I don't know why. I can't speak. I've been filming for a while. Tutu Atwell, Dallas Goedert, Taysom Hill, and so much more. Bobby Wagner, Matos, Levante David. I mean, there are still a lot of guys, so I'm expecting a lot more news coming out. Obviously, we're just a day and a half into free agency, so still a lot more to come. But this is kind of your NFL free agency episode. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you've actually stayed this entire long. Thank you guys so much. And then coming up next week, or coming up this rest of the week, our Thursday episode is going to be basically spring training check-in for your Minnesota Twins. Kind of giving you my thoughts, and we're going to kind of do what we did here, but for what's going on down there in Fort Myers for spring training. I got almost daily shorts coming out on this channel, so stay tuned for those. Any major move, I will give you my reaction. I also got some like can we build a 17-0 NFL team type of things also on that. We got a weekly rebuild coming out on Saturday. Actually, I'm going to start filming that tonight. We got Kingdom Competitors. If you don't know what that is, that comes out Saturday or Sunday. We'll figure it out. But episodes coming out on this podcast weekly, every Tuesday, every Thursday. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you want to come on the show, send me an email. Email is in the description of my YouTube channel. You can also check out my website, which is in the description of this video, where I kind of write blogs, and then you can also have access to my Spotify and this YouTube channel as well. So hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Thank you guys so much for watching. I pray that you guys enjoyed the vibe and just the episode in general. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you did make it through all the entire video, props to you. I don't think I could, but anyway, I shouldn't be saying that. Golly. Comment, I made it, if you made it through the entire episode. Let me know if you guys want any specific episodes. I can take that into account for sure. But thank you guys so much for watching. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to keep God first, because he's the most important thing in your lives. And I'll see you guys all in the next one. Have a great day. Peace.